Have you ever wondered what would happen if the entire global financial system just stopped? It sounds like a movie plot, but in 2008, it almost became a reality. This wasn't just about numbers on a screen, it was a crisis that reshaped our world, affecting jobs, homes, and futures for millions. So, how did we get to the brink of collapse? Let's rewind the clock and uncover the story of the 2008 financial crisis. Our story begins in a place you might not expect, the American housing market. For years, the belief was simple: house prices always go up. This idea fueled a massive boom. Banks and lenders, eager to profit, started handing out mortgages like candy. These weren't just any mortgages, they were called subprime loans, given to people with poor credit who were at a higher risk of not being able to pay them back. Why would banks take such a risk? Because they weren't holding onto it. This is where things get complicated, but stick with me. Investment banks took these risky mortgages, bundled thousands of them together, and created something called a mortgage-backed security, or MBS. Think of it like a financial fruit basket. You have some good fruits, some okay fruits, and some that are about to go bad. The banks then sliced these baskets into different pieces, from the safest to the riskiest, and sold them to investors all over the world: pension funds, insurance companies, even other countries. They were stamped with top-notch credit ratings, like AA, making them seem as safe as gold. For a while, the party was in full swing. Money was flowing, houses were being built, and everyone seemed to be getting rich. The problem was, the entire system was built on a shaky foundation. The assumption that house prices would never fall and that people would always pay their mortgages. But what happens when that assumption proves wrong? By 2006 and 2007, the first cracks appeared. Interest rates on those subprime mortgages started to adjust upwards, making payments suddenly unaffordable for many homeowners. Defaults began to skyrocket. As more and more people couldn't pay, they were forced to sell their homes. This flood of houses onto the market caused the unthinkable to happen. House prices started to plummet. The housing bubble had burst. Now, remember those financial fruit baskets, the mortgage-backed securities, the bad fruit, the defaulting mortgages started to poison the entire basket. Suddenly, these AA-rated investments that were sold as super safe were revealed to be nearly worthless. And nobody knew exactly how much of this toxic debt was lurking on the balance sheets of the world's biggest financial institutions. Panic set in. Banks, which lend money to each other every single day to keep the economy moving, stopped trusting one another. They had no idea who was holding the toxic assets. The credit markets, the lifeblood of the global economy, froze solid. It was like the plumbing of the financial system had completely clogged. The dominoes began to fall fast. In March 2008, the investment bank Bear Stearns, a Wall Street giant for 85 years, was on the verge of collapse and had to be sold for pennies on the dollar in a fire sale. But that was just the appetizer. The main course came on September 15th. 2008 date now etched in financial history. Lehman Brothers, the fourth largest investment bank in the United States, declared bankruptcy. It was the largest bankruptcy filing in US history, and it sent shockwaves across the globe. Unlike with Bear Stearns, the US government decided not to bail out Lehman Brothers. The hope was to teach Wall Street a lesson about reckless risk-taking. Instead, it triggered a full-blown panic. The global financial system stared into the abyss. The next day, the insurance behemoth AIG, which had insured trillions of dollars of these toxic assets, was about to go under. Its failure would have been catastrophic. So the government stepped in with a massive $85 billion bailout. The message was clear. Some institutions were too big to fail. Governments and central banks around the world, led by the US Federal Reserve, unleashed an unprecedented wave of interventions. They slashed interest rates to near zero. They bailed out major banks and even car companies. They pumped trillions of dollars into the financial system to unfreeze the credit markets and prevent a complete meltdown. It was a desperate, all-hands-on-deck effort to pull the world back from the brink of a second Great Depression. The immediate crisis was averted, but the fallout was immense and long-lasting. The Great Recession had begun. Millions of people around the world lost their jobs. Millions lost their homes to foreclosure. Retirement savings were wiped out. The stock market crashed, erasing trillions in wealth. The economic pain was deep and widespread, creating a last decade of slow growth and high unemployment for many countries. The crisis also shattered public trust in financial institutions and governments. People were angry. How could this happen? How could those who caused the crisis walk away? while ordinary people paid the price. This anger fueled social and political movements across the globe, from Occupy Wall Street in the US to anti-austerity protests in Europe. It reshaped political landscapes, contributing to the rise of populist movements and a deep skepticism of globalization and the financial elite. In response, governments enacted sweeping new regulations. In the US, the Dodd-Frank Act was passed, aiming to make the financial system safer. It required banks to hold more capital as a buffer against losses, increased oversight of complex financial products, and created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to protect ordinary people from predatory lending. Similar reforms were introduced across Europe and Asia. The goal was to prevent a repeat of 2008 by making the system more resilient. So, more than a decade later, where do we stand? The global economy has recovered, but the scars remain. The crisis exposed fundamental weaknesses in our financial architecture and raised profound questions about inequality, regulation, and moral hazard. Are we safer today? Many experts believe the system is more robust, but new risks are always emerging. The memory of 2008 serves as a powerful and humbling reminder of how quickly things can unravel and how interconnected our world truly is. It's a story of greed, failure, and ultimately, a global struggle for survival, the lessons of which we are still learning today. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this deep dive into the financial crisis interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that breaks down the complex events that shape our world. Let me know in the comments what other major historical events you'd like to see covered. See you in the next video.